is going to be the first edition of the football show. We're going to look back on the four preliminary quarterfinals in the senior championship and just give a quick synopsis then of the draw. And we will have a preview show then of the draw later in the week. I'm here with Barry Cullinane to look back on the action over the weekend. Barry, before we get into it, it does feel like it has been a relatively good club football championship so far.
Yeah, I think it's been really, really good. Really competitive. No team looking like it's streaking away. Some good quality in it, and I haven't seen a huge amount of the games, but from the games that I have watched, really well coached teams as well. Every team looks well set up, and right now, if you had loads of money, you'd probably be putting it on Corofin to win it because that's what they do. They win these things, but it's really open, and every team that's left will really fancy their chances. Like Tuam will have felt they left chances behind them against Corofin, and that's probably something that we've repeated over the years is that Corofin, because of the style of football they play, where it's open and it's expansive and they trust their skill set, they don't put 15 behind the ball. So they give you chances and they put you under pressure. And you need to make sure that you're able to convert those chances under pressure if you have a chance of beating them. And, historically, teams haven't.
Just before we get in and look back at the preliminary quarterfinals, I do want to ask you about your own club, Clare Galway. It was a disappointing championship campaign. There's no point in saying otherwise. There was expectation there with Paddy Finnegan and Alan Glynn coming in. As a former player, where do you think Clare Galway are now?
They're in a relegation battle, which is unfortunate, particularly where their ambition is, both on the field and off the field. And like, first and foremost, I wouldn't be laying the blame at Alan or Paddy's door. And I think if I was, and I'm not, but if I was involved in the executive of Clare Galway, I'd be sitting with the two lads as soon as possible and saying, look, this is a long-term project and we need someone in there, or a group of people in there for 3, 4, 5 years that can work with this group of players because they're very young. Now, whose problem is that? Is that's Clare Galway's problem that they're very young. And my question, and look, I'm gone. Some of these young lads wouldn't even know who I am, but I'm gone out of the club a good while, living down here in Cork, and probably had thrown my lot in with Turlough for so long. But my question about Clare Galway is like, where is the 24, 25, 26, 27-year-old player? We see lots of clubs that have good youth coming through, but it's sprinkled along in the team with good experience. And, Darren Hennessy, Barry Goldrick, Mark Rowan, but they need more. They needed 5 or 6 kind of hardened 25-year-olds, 26-year-olds that have been around the block to throw in with the Jack Lanigans of the world. Unfortunately, they don't seem to have them. And the job that Alan and Paddy have is that the team that they have now is to make sure that they bring them to the 25, 26, 27-year-olds where they can go and compete over and over again in championships, because there's no doubt they have the talent, but it's just the age profile is going against them, I think. And that has unfortunately been the case for Clare Galway over the last couple of years.
Is it about waiting for the Jack Lynn's and the Dara Whelans and all those players to get to that kind of late 20s kind of bracket?
Well, maybe more so the Ian Monaghan's and these guys. So like Jack has done it. Dara Whelan is experienced, both of hurling and football. So I don't like to be successful. To be successful, you need nearly three generations in a team. You need the guys that have been there, maybe have experienced a bit of hardship. They've been around the block. They know how to play the real seasoned teams. You need the guys that are at their peak, and then you need the younger guys. Clare are probably missing the first two. The Darren Hennessy's and Barry Goldricks, like they're really good, but they haven't got to semi-final, quarterfinals, or experienced real heartache and losing finals. And then they don't have that 23, 24, 25-year-old outside of maybe Jack. So just it's going to take a bit of time. But I think the most important thing is that they give time to Alan and Paddy. And like, even if you're, I know we'll talk about the other games, you look at Oughterard, Alan Murphy has been given loads of time with them, and they're now in a quarter final. It takes you time to try and find how you want to play. Every coach or manager that goes into a club has their own ideas, but unfortunately, you mightn't have the players to fulfill those ideas. So it takes you time to figure out, what's the best way of getting success out of these guys, and that's what it's just going to take, that little bit of time.
If we look first at that Oughterard Milltown game over the weekend, Oughterard 3-14, Milltown 3-11. Milltown did tremendous once again to battle back and fight back, and it looked like towards the end they were going to kind of get it back, but Oughterard were always sort of able to keep ahead. But as you mentioned there, Oughterard, Alan Murphy's been there now for a few years, and they're really starting to reap the rewards. You can see it. Even their fitness the last day, I think, was the most breathtaking thing for everyone. Like to see these players who were still going at full throttle at injury time.
And again, that's all part of it. It's jumping from, like, so maybe you have a club that has a relatively good season. Maybe some of the players, usually the players that aren't on the team, aren't overly happy with the management setup, but executive or the club officers decide that manager has to go because some of the players aren't happy, and then you're starting the cycle all over again. Whereas if you can get someone in place for that period of time, that once your season ends, they give the players a bit of a break, but that there's a cycle and it's straight back into that strength and conditioning program. It's making sure that during the winter the guys are maximising that time, because club football is now at a stage where inter-county football was a couple of years ago, and unless you're willing to put it in and put in the hard yards and the hard work, you're not going to be successful. And that's the benefit of having a manager there in place for in situ for a long time. And Alan is well clued in. He's obviously experienced in the coaching. He brings the soccer side of it as well. And obviously good way with people. And like I said, I've been on with you now for a good while, and I've constantly said Oughterard are a team that I really like the way they play football, and I really like the style of footballers that they produce. And will they go and win a Frank Fox? Probably not at this stage, but they're going to be knocking at the door, and that can only lead to bigger and better things in years ahead.
The last day, Barry, Matthew Tierney, tremendous. Enda Tierney, tremendous. Keane Monaghan, really good. Ryan Monaghan, really good. Carl Donoghue at wing back, really good. Like when they get performances out of all those players, they're a really hard team to stop.
So as a club, and this is for every, like, Clare Galway for and a down Tuam, whoever it is, what you want to be producing is a couple of players. It doesn't have to be every year, but that every 2 or 3 years you're getting two guys in a Galway minor team, two guys in a Galway under 20 team that might have a bit of success. And the four guys that you named off at the start have all done it at a high level. And you know, if you get 4 or 5 of those players in that have real quality, real experience, and a real exposure to top end coach and top end S&C, they can drag lads along with them. And in club football, if you can marry in that pace and power that the lads have, that's a good recipe. It's a great starting place. You're not fighting to try and get lads fit or trying fighting to get lads motivated. They're coming in motivated, and they'll drive standards. And Matthew Tierney, okay, this year might have petered out a bit for him, but he had been excellent all year, and he will be coming into that club campaign really chomping at the bit to go and do something for Oughterard, because I think they've loads of talent to do it.
They're really not going to fear Mike Cullen this weekend. Obviously, they touch right beside them a lot. Obviously, you have the connection there between the Monahans and Kellys being first cousins as well, but they're really going to fancy their chances, I feel, this weekend.
Yeah, 100%, and they'll see it as a shot to nothing for themselves as well. Like, it's like, if I was in Alan's position, and he's far more qualified than me to discuss how Oughterard are going to approach this, but I certainly would be of the opinion that leave nothing, don't have any regrets about it. Go and have a right cut of Mike Cullen. Mike Cullen haven't been massively impressive so far this year. Now, next weekend they could turn around and give a performance of the ages because they have the footballers to do that. But they've a lot of miles on the clock again. They've had changes in their backroom team. So that, I know Cahill is around the scene for a long time, but with Mark McHugh coming in and just Don and that reassuring presence that Don has had over the last couple of years not being there, that change might have unsettled them slightly as well, but that they just haven't reached the peaks of what they have previously. But Oughterard will be coming in, they'll be saying, let's tear into this at 100 miles an hour. And as I said, if you can get three or four things right in club football, it gives you a great chance. If you limit the amount of frees that you give away, if you convert your own frees, and if you convert any goal chances that you get, they're not overly difficult things to do. If you can get those three things right, it gives you a great chance, and they'll be focusing on them, I'd say, from here on to the weekend.
If we're just to look at Milltown there, because obviously their campaign is now come to an end. They're out of the championship, bowed out in the preliminary quarter-final at the weekend. When they do look back on it, they're really going to be disappointed in the manner they conceded some of the goals against Oughterard at the weekend.
Yeah, no. This is a bigger point. I think groups of four don't give a true reflection on where teams are. To a certain extent, I don't think you should win one game out of in your group and come out in second. Like,
So you're only thinking the top two really should come out, not three.
yeah, not three, maybe three come out, but go to groups of five. So I know they've had 16 teams, and I
Yeah.
think personally, this is a conversation. I think personally, the directive to get 16 teams in club football or club hurling in all counties at a maximum was a way of the GA minimising the time it's going to take for minimise the time it's going to take to run off a club championship. And there's downsides to if you just said, oh, the top two comes out, third doesn't come out. Well, then Milltown finished in third and then their group. So they any of those players that they're trying to develop would have got 6 weeks of they would have got a month's championship football. And that's it.
Well, Milltown were actually, they got
Milltown was
second on
second.
goal
Milltown was
difference. Yeah.
second. Yeah,
Yeah.
Milltown was second in their group, right? But so that was my point initially because is that they shouldn't you shouldn't really be coming out of your group by winning one game. But and that's going for not just Milltown. But what I'm saying there is that if you only allow the top two out, then whoever was in third, they play a month's championship football, and that's it. And I don't think that's enough. I don't think it's enough for, how do you say to, Paul Shaughnessy is playing for Down, real potential, looks like he could go on and be maybe not a Galway footballer, but a mainstay for Down. They finished third in their group and he's out of the championship after 3 games, after a month's football, and you're trying to say to him, right, Paul, you have to stay around now till this time next year for a championship.
You
It's a big conversation about split season, but I just don't think it works, to be honest. But that's maybe
just
my
on that, because you've obviously worked at Ballier and you've experienced this
mm,
from finishing third in the group, and like I'm obviously not sure whether you're committing to them next year or not. But just on that, because the younger players, like if you were to go back and tell them there, it's obviously a big task to get these younger players to come back in now, because are they really willing to commit that much just for, as you mentioned, a month's championship?
yeah. But that's so I can only talk from Ballier point of view, and they'd you know lost a lot of players from a couple of years ago. So to backfill that with some younger players, and like they have some really really good younger players. Though some of them are involved with Clare football panels and stuff like that. And this is across the board. This is just in the conversation about Ballier. But there's a month, so they play one game on Sunday because of the football hurling situation in Clare. They play, and same in Galway. They play 2 weeks later. They play their second round of the championship, and 2 weeks later they play their third round of the championship. Now in Clare, if you're third in the group, that's it. You're gone. You're finished. So it's over for them. But I just don't think for those younger players in Ballier or in Ballinderry, whatever club it is, that a month's championship hurling or championship football is enough exposure to really develop them. And you could say, well, how do you expand that? I personally think 18 teams and a group of six would be ideal. You get 5 championship games. you come first three teams come out of it, and then at least six teams in the championship get more game time. Something like that. But I just think it's just not enough. Like it's not. You think it's like the Jack Caran and these lads. Okay, he might be involved with Galway panels, but there's loads of Jack Carans out there that aren't involved in Galway panels that are now finished their football by the end of September. That started in the middle of August, and what do they do? Okay, we've a league in Galway, but what do they do? How does Milltown manager or management or Milltown club convince those lads, geez lads, don't go travelling, don't go to America? Saying it's not doable.
Yeah, it is really a broad conversation there. Just before we leave that Milltown game, obviously it is credit to Milltown once again. Like it looked like a game that they were going to struggle in, and once again they just battled back like they always do.
Yeah, they've I spoke about what a team needs to succeed, and you know Milltown have a certain proportion that they have a certain group of older fellas, Cahill, Sean Blake, these lads who are battle hardened, who know how it is to play championship football. They're probably on the flip of Claregawa, they're probably missing one or two, three, four really young hot talent that's going to come through and push them on. But like no one can ever doubt Milltown's commitment to the cause. They're a wonderful football club. They always put their shoulder to the wheel and they credit themselves. And you know, I would say for Milltown, they've had a bit of a managerial merry-go-round over the last couple of years. I would say like that. I'd say whoever they put in situ, I think they should say, look, let's give this 2, 3, 4 years. And I'd say probably like Darren Malahy will probably come under a bit of pressure to come back into the fold and see what he can do. But maybe it's a bit too soon for Darren. But they should definitely be looking at a manager that's there for a couple of years to try and go and develop something.
The earlier quarterfinal on that Saturday was Letchmore, Dunmore, MacHales, Dunmore 13, Letchmore 9 points. This got fairly fiery towards the end. We even had players pushing each other, going over to each other after the final whistle. But it mightn't have been as high scoring as maybe the Milltown Oughterard game, but intensity wise, this had it all.
Yeah, and two clubs that have done Trojan work, and it goes to show that like when you get your house in order, you do things right. You really put resources behind younger players because you can't say that Dunmore or Letchmore have an advantage in terms of their playing resources. They don't. They're you know rural. I know maybe Dunmore is a big town, but it's a rural town that probably has a dwindling population, and the same with Letchmore. But they're producing really good footballers, good teams. They're getting a couple of guys on minor teams and under 20 teams sprinkled throughout the last couple of years and holding on to them and making sure that they're facilitated as well as they possibly can. And you'd have to say it's a credit to them. And what on a bigger picture, like Galway football needs, it can't. The future of Galway football can't rely just on the centres of population like Claregalway or more, Tuam, Salt Hill, Cullinane. It has to have these clubs on the outsides of the major city or the major towns thriving. And the only way we will be successful is when that happens. And like you go back to like an example, I always like the likes of Shea Walsh from Glenamaddy, what he did for Galway football, like absolutely outstanding. We need more Shea Walshes from more Glenamaddys to really go and produce and push on and develop Galway football.
No, I think the last time you were on the pod was after the Dunmore and my Cullen game, and I was asking you mentally how would that affect Dunmore. But since that game, they have really like game management. They really seem to have learned from that and built on that. Even the last day, they had the chance to go for the goal at the end. Colin Costello fisted over to stretch it out to 4 points. Even his brother Paul Costello has stepped up with some big scores as well, just to always keep that lead for Dunmore.
And again, you know, sorry for repeating myself, but Gary Delaney is in situ for a good long number of years, and it gives everybody great learnings because he can look at what he feels he got right and he got wrong, players got right and players got wrong, address that at the end of the season and try and make sure it doesn't happen in the second season. And it's just when you change managers, everybody's learning again. And you know, he was a extremely smart footballer, extremely good footballer, and by all accounts is a an extremely smart coach as well, and is doing really good work down there. And like even players buy into that. Like if they see that someone is committed to them, committed to their club, committed to making them better, that grows and you know that counts for a lot. Whereas if they have someone coming in, different manager coming in next year, how long will he stay? You know, another guy coming in the year after. Players see through that, and I don't think it's a recipe for success, to be honest.
Dunmore on just on that, they're preparing now for Sawtell in the quarter-final, and they'll obviously be within their own camp. They'll be fancying their chances, and as you mentioned, they bite into they know what they're about.
Yeah, they've loads of pace. They defend really well. They're disciplined and they're done more. And again, I've said this to a few people previously. If you get a relatively good group of players in a club that has the tradition like Dunmore, it's far easier than if you get players with the exact same level of talent and in a club that probably doesn't have tradition. And like I'll say, my own Clare Galway, like they don't have that proud history of winning championships, of producing players, generational players, and you know the more do have it. So once they get a sniff of success or a sniff of developing something to make them back into that powerhouse, it's far easier. Um, Even as I said, mentally, it's in the psyche down there to go and be successful. And you said Oughterard won't fear my Cullen. I can guarantee you Dunmore won't fear Sawtell. They will really power into this. And again, they'll feel, and I think the message Gary Delaney will say, well, let's see what Sawtell have. You know, on all known credentials, Sawtell should beat us. Let them come and beat us. And if they can do that, fair play to them. But we're not going to make it easy. And if we can bring a huge high energy and a high work rate to it, we're going to make it difficult for them, and they're going to have to come out and show what they're worth. Now, on paper, Sawtell have an excellent team. Again, maybe a bit like my Cullen, have been a bit hit and miss, but have produced some really good football. And I think John Maher has continued the form that he's shown in the Galway colours this year, and he's probably going to be the one that my colour or that Dunmore are going to really have to target.
Just on the four prelim winners, do you think any of them can be county champions at the end of the year?
Um, Tuam, Killannin, Oughterard, and Dunmore. I think Tuam could be a team that could take a bit of definitely. I think Tuam could be county champions. I think. Look, I'm contradicting myself here. I think Corofin will probably beat them, but they will have learned from that, and they will certainly be thundering into it saying we're going to get a chance to take these lads. And I think if they did, you know, everything coming from Tuam is really positive. You know, I was chatting to Morris Brosnan. He was saying it's, you know, really good setup. Players bought in. Barry Kelly, excellent. David Donlan, great manager, and there's a positivity around it. And I think they could definitely be county champions.
Yeah, it's just great for Annadown to get a day out like this next Sunday against Tuam, and
Sorry,
just
Tuam. Or Donlan. Yeah, yeah. Sorry.
yeah,
That's like,
I know
yeah.
it's great for us. Yeah, so no, another person to write them off this weekend. So I'll remember that now. I presume you can see the power rankings up here, Barry. Have you missed
Yeah.
them?
I saw, to be honest, Paul. I thought the pod would have to. I thought you'd have to close it down with some of it. It'd be interesting to see where they are now compared to where you had them on the first day.
Yeah, that's always the one. I'll just read them out here. So obviously this is after the prelim action over the weekend. So Salton Knocknacar remain in first place, Kerfin second, Mike Collin third, and down fourth, Tuam fifth, Oughterard up one place into sixth, Dunmore MacHales up two places in seventh, and then Killannin in eighth up four places. James's, they're down three places. Letchermore are down two places. Montpellier, Malaw down one. Milltown down one. And then the four relegation semi-finalists. Claregalway in 13th, Barnum 14th, Monavea Abbey in 15th, and Carrickstrand in 16th. Anything you strongly disagree with there, Barry?
Um, no, I think St James's have been unlucky this year. Like they've been on some good performances, but just have come up short and did so again the last day. I'm not sure. I'm not sure why Corofin wouldn't be first.
The reasoning there is, I think Tuam left that game behind them. And it's still obviously a great signing, Griffin winning, but I think maybe they've showed one or two vulnerable aspects there that maybe I think one or two teams can go after. Um, Now I know people might talk about the strength of the group, etc., but I've just been more impressed with Saltill even since their first game. Second game they're really impressive, and third game, I just felt Tuam left that game behind them.
I just think it's funny that you're writing off Corofin, but anyway, we'll see how this turns out.
No,
Um,
just before people
uh,
think the wrong thing there now, I'm definitely not writing them off.
um, these power rankings can get you into trouble, Paul. Yeah, I would still have Corofin at number one. I think they're county champions. They're sprinkled with players. They're really, really good backroom team, and I have absolutely no doubt come quarterfinals they will be absolutely flying, and they'll have timed their run to perfection. But yeah, there's nothing really you could say in the top three. Tuam and down. That's going to be a really good game. A lot of what Tuam can do, I suppose, is how you manage Damien Comer, and I suppose like for me, even overall, like maybe at times the inter-county game probably maybe doesn't suit Damien because they get so many bodies behind the ball and teams are so tactical and maybe we don't get it in as quick enough to him. But what I love about these club games is you see how good these lads are, and like you can just see how good Damien. You go to an down game,
Hmm.
it's a good reminder of exactly how good Damien Comer is. And like I think the Shane Walsh had 1-4 for Kilmacud at the weekend.
Yeah.
Like go to them club games and you see how good they are. Paul Conroy, John Maher, like that's where these guys really, really expose their power and what they can do and why they are in the top echelon of footballers in the country.
Yeah, just on it, you mentioned James was unlucky. Obviously, Killannin got over the line there, 213 to 112. It was a really impressive performance from Killannin, and maybe he didn't get on the scoreboard as much, but having Patrick Sweeney back in their attack was huge for them because even you could see Keane Folan, he was able to find that space. He got two goals, and he's been really impressive. But to have Patrick Sweeney back in their attack, like when they have him back in the attack with the other players they have around, they have a really impressive attack.
I've said it before about Patrick Sweeney. If you were looking at two players in Galway that their injury profile has curtailed their career significantly, one is Michael Meehan and the other one's Patrick Sweeney. And I always said that if Patrick Sweeney was fully fit and you know a consistent run of games when he's in the autumn of his career at this stage, but when he was at the peak of his powers, I felt he was right up there as that 14 target man, right up there as a Michael Murphy type figure in Galway. And he's brilliant hands, he's great vision, unbelievable power. His movement is really good. So what Killannin have is they have one guy coming back inside the lines that makes a huge difference, and one guy coming back outside the lines that makes a huge difference. And like Kevin Welch, just like what he does as a coach is outstanding, and I think
Do you
he's
think it's
really
just now we're starting to see Kevin's imprint in the team? So obviously he was
yeah
with Cork, and I know he wasn't able to be there all the time, but it's taken Clannon a few games to get to that level.
yeah it has, and he's obviously more hands on now. But I'd say when he was with Cork, he would have been doing a good bit on video, a good bit maybe away from the training pitch, or And I would say a lot of the messages coming out of their management team's mouths were directed by Kevin, and he would have known that. He would have known that once he was to get back there, like there's no better coach, one of the top coaches in the country, and he has a good group of players. Obviously, his own lad is there as well, and he'll be hoping to go and improve them as much as they possibly can, and it's great to see.
Yeah, it's even the young lads coming, Dare Walsh, Ryan Roach, they're really exciting. And then you throw in the likes of Johnny Heaney, Keane Folan. It's Enda Kelly was really good the last day too. It's an exciting attacking unit that Killannin have here at the minute.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And like Johnny Heaney, again, he's doing really well for them. Um, I think all over the pitch. I'm not sure they play Corofin, don't they? In the
They do, yeah.
Yeah, like that's a step. That's a step above for them. But it's a great learning for them as well, particularly if they're younger guys. You know,
Is there a sense of nothing to lose? Because everyone's expecting them to lose anyways.
Oh yeah, 100% nothing to lose. But again, like all the underdogs, Oughterard to be underdogs against my Cullen, Dunmore be underdogs against Hot Hill. They all have nothing to lose, and all their messages will be, let's make that team, more superior team, go and win this game and have to show something, because the most frustrating thing it could be for an Oughterard or for a Dunmore, for Killannin against Corofin, is that you don't go and have a cut, and that at the end of it you have regrets. But if you go and you give it absolutely everything you can give it, you control what you can control. You bring a high energy, high work rate, good attitude to it, and your bet. Well, you can look each other in the eye at the end of it and say, look, they just had too much quality for us. But you don't want to be going home on Saturday evening or Sunday evening saying, Jesus, we didn't fire a shot at all, and they didn't have to perform to beat us. That's the frustrating one.
So yeah, as you mentioned there, Curfin played Killannin. And I know you mentioned about James as being unlucky, but it'd be wrong me not to mention it. It's obviously fantastic to get two Galway footballers nominated for Footballer of the Year in John Mayer and Paul Conroy. Similar to me, Barry, where you just feel Paul Conroy has to get Footballer of the Year.
I don't think there's any doubt. I think he was the most influential footballer in the country all year. Um, I will be disappointed. I'm not sure will we get Footballer of the Year and Young Footballer of the Year, but I think Johnny McGrath deserves Young Footballer of the Year as well. Um, I thought John Maher was like, I thought his performance in the All Ireland final. Yeah, it wasn't a Michael Donlan, Jar Fallon, Park Joyce type thing where he kicks 45-yard sidelines or runs from one end of the field to the other, or kicks 10 points. But like, his GPS stats in that game must have been off the charts. He covered every blade. His turnovers, his decision making, his execution of the basic skills were absolutely phenomenal. And he can do all that while being 6'4" and probably 100 kgs and run like a gazelle. Like, he's everything that you want in a modern footballer, and he's been outstanding. And I'd hope his day will come. But for me, I think the status that Paul holds in football nationally, I think would probably aid him in terms of getting the votes and stuff like that. But fitting, like, look, in saying that, if you ask Paul,
Yeah.
do you want to All Ireland medal, and you had a mediocre season, or do you want to be betting All Ireland final and get football? There's only one decision he's going to make. But unfortunately, the All Ireland, he can't do anything about the All Ireland football final now, and I think he's going to get a reward for not just a great season but an unbelievable career.
Yeah, it's even a credit to what he's went back and did with the club after such a long season. It's just been immense. Even
But
he
like,
was,
that's like, that's what real leaders do, and he's a real leader, and he does it. He's unassuming. He's he can mix it, but and if
is
that
he the best midfielder we've ever produced?
present company excluded.
Of course, Barry.
Best midfielder. Well, look, probably not. I would say Kevin Walsh would have.
You'd have Kevin Walsh ahead of him.
I think, well, Kevin Walsh has two All Ireland medals and three All Stars in his back pocket. I think he didn't probably have the silky skills that Paul has. Have we produced a midfielder, a ball playing midfielder like Paul Conroy before?
Yeah,
Probably not. Now, I would have watched like the likes of Pat Donlan back in the '60s, like what he did, his athleticism, his like he was only small. Pat Donlan was only 5'8", 5'9", and yet could compete with the best of them. Then you had Kevin. Yeah, I would say Paul is probably in the top two, top three that we've ever produced. But like, can I come on and say Paul Conroy's a better footballer than Kevin Walsh? Possibly, but like I'm not going to nail my colours to the mast in that one because that's certainly one that's uh, very opinion driven and it could be swayed either way really. So you're not going to catch me on that one, but count me in enough.
just before we look briefly at the draw, Tuam obviously bet Montbellew, and it was a fantastic decision by Galway during the week to have the two games on Thursday night. Massive credit to them as well to have 8 games, well, seven in the end, obviously with Thomas's and Crowell being called off there. To have 7 games streamed is just it's been a fantastic service. But on Tuam against Montbellew, Tuam went in 1-6 to 1-5 ahead at the break, and it looked like they played all the football and they only went in a point ahead at the break, and then they come out second half. And once Luke Davin gets Tuam's second goal, they look like they just have it from then on in.
Yeah, look, I think Tuam have loads of players like really good players and good leaders, and again like that history, that heritage. Um, Unfortunately for Montbellew, it's just about absenteeism and like you can
To lose
have
John as well is just massive
yeah,
loss. Like,
you can't really account for that, and you could have I don't know whoever Paul Kinnock of Gaelic football and Mickey Hart and Jim Gavin over a team, and if they just lose so many players, it's really, really difficult. And I think they acquitted themselves quite well and put it up to Tube, but they've, probably just they'll be hoping that that plane back from Australia will be full of Montbellew Mylock players around the Christmas, and that they won't be a return flight booked.
yeah, it really does feel like that from Montbellew. When we had Johnny Ryan and Boyd Cunningham on last week on the pod previewing the games, we were just talking about Tuam, like maybe it's been a forward or two in the past that been often talked about, but the big thing David Donnellan has seemed to do is he's got a balance now in the Tuam forward line.
Yeah, and they've good, they can kick and like just take Colin McQualter for example. Like looking at it this year, I think I've seen Tuam twice, and just listening to what experts have been saying is that he's found a little bit more of a consistency as well, and that he can do the magical from time to time, but goes a little bit missing. And I think they've done that. They're not as reliant, obviously, on Jamie Murphy. Um, I think, and what Tuam have is a good balance of left-footed and right-footed kickers as well, and I think that makes a difference. You see a lot of teams just with the nature of the balance of their team in terms of their stronger foot, they go down a certain wing majority of times. But I think with Tube, they switch the point of the attack. They go down different wings and they get scores from different positions inside that scoring zone. And I think that's a big plus for them.
So just on those quarters, if I can just get your predictions briefly of who's going to be in the last four. Obviously, the games there, Anna Down, Tuam Stairs, Kerfin Killannin, Sawtill Dunmore, and my Cullen Oughterard.
Um, I would say Corfin will be Killannin, and I think it'll be a marker Corfin are going to set down to say that they have timed everything really well and that they're coming into these knockouts they always felt they were going to get to these knockout stages and they'll push on. And I think that that'll be your power rankings could possibly change on next week. Salthill will get over Dunmore. Again, good battle, but I think Salthill will win that one. Um,
It's my Colin
Tuam,
Oughterard and down Tuam Stairs then in the
yeah,
other two.
yeah. I was thinking about the Tuam and a down one and how I would break this to you gently, but I think Tuam might have a little bit too much for Anna Down. I think the quality of Anna Down's group mightn't have been the strongest, and I think that they might just come up a little bit short against Tuam, and I think
My Cullinane and Oughterard, final one.
this is probably the only one, the one that there's the probably most chance of being an upset. I think Oughterard will test them, but unfortunately, I think it's going to end up with Corofin, Mike Cullen, Sawhill, and I think Tuam as our four
Yeah.
semi-finalists, and there's a bit of a
Three
predictability
from one group.
about three from one group, and I think there's a bit of a predictability about that, which is unfortunate, but that's just the nature of these things, and the kind of quality always comes to the top. But it's really important that we could get competitive, high quality quarterfinals. And from a Galway point of view, who knows? You might get one or two guys that um, come left field and are outliers, and might see, like to a certain extent, John Maher was a bit of an outlier on a Galway side of things. That had really really good underage career. Um, but he was brought back into the Galway fold off the back of his Sawtill form. And can we find another John Maher? And I think there's definitely players out there.
That is all we do have time for on this evening's show. As I mentioned, we'll be back later in the week previewing all the senior and intermediate games. But that's all we do have time for on tonight's show. Thanks a million to Barry for coming on.